Part 1. Hell was unleashed on Earth. Dr. Hyun-woo stared at his computer screen in the Korean Space Research Institute. Something was wrong. The numbers made no sense. 3 massive objects were moving toward Earth at speeds that should have been impossible. He ran the calculations again, then again. Each time the answer was the same. Something big was coming and it was slowing down. He picked up his phone and called his supervisor. Within minutes, the room filled with scientists and officials. They all saw the same thing on their screens. The objects were real. They were huge. And they would arrive in less than 6 hours. Around the world, other observatories detected the same signals. Emergency meetings began in every major capital. Military forces went on high alert. News channels started reporting strange lights in the sky. People looked up and saw nothing yet, but they felt something was different. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. When the ships arrived, they came all at once. The sky over Seoul turned dark even though it was midday. Enormous vessels blocked out the sun. They were not made of metal like human ships. These things looked alive. Their surfaces pulsed with strange lights. Veins of color ran across their hulls like blood through skin. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Captain Ji-won was at the military base when the alarm sounded. She grabbed her gear and ran to her unit. Her soldiers looked scared but ready. They had trained for many threats, but never for this. She ordered them to defensive positions around the city. They set up barriers and prepared their weapons. Everyone hoped they would not need to use them. The aliens did not try to talk. They did not send messages. They simply began their attack. Pods fell from the ships like rain. When they hit the ground, they burst open and released clouds of something that looked like green mist. The mist touched a building and the concrete started to dissolve. It touched trees and they withered to ash in seconds. It touched people and they screamed. Ji-won ordered her unit to open fire. Bullets flew toward the alien pods, but they bounced off or were absorbed by the strange material. Missiles exploded against the ships above and nothing happened. The aliens had shields or armor that human weapons could not penetrate. She watched helplessly as her city began to die around her. In Tokyo, London, New York, Mumbai, and dozens of other cities, the same horror unfolded. The aliens attacked everywhere at once. They released creatures that looked like a mixture of insects and machines. These things moved fast and killed faster. Their claws cut through steel. Their screams made people's ears bleed, and they never stopped coming. The creatures were not the worst part. The aliens had brought something else. They fired beams of sound from their ships. When these beams hit the ground, everything organic turned to liquid. People, animals, plants all became puddles of dissolved flesh. The beams swept across neighborhoods like searchlights, leaving nothing alive behind them. Governments tried to respond. Fighter jets engaged the alien ships and were swatted from the sky like flies. Tanks fired shells that did nothing. In desperation, 3 nations launched nuclear missiles. The world held its breath as the weapons flew toward their targets. The nuclear explosions lit up the sky over the alien vessels. For a moment, it seemed like humanity might have a chance. Then the light faded and the ships were still there. Not only had they survived, but they seemed to glow brighter. They had absorbed the energy somehow. The aliens were feeding on humanity's most powerful weapons. Dr. Hyun-woo watched the nuclear strikes fail from his bunker beneath the research institute. He was surrounded by other scientists who had taken shelter underground. They had computers and communication equipment, but they felt powerless. The world above them was ending, and they had no idea how to stop it. By the end of the first day, hundreds of millions were dead. Cities were ruins. The aliens had spread some kind of growth across the areas they controlled. It looked like purple moss mixed with black coral. It covered buildings and streets, turning human civilization into alien landscapes. The growth seemed to breathe. It released spores that made people sick if they inhaled them. Captain Ji-won retreated underground with what remained of her unit. Out of 200 soldiers, only 43 survived the first day. They found shelter in an old subway tunnel that had been converted into an emergency bunker. Civilians were already there, thousands of them, scared and injured. Ji-won tried to maintain order, but she saw the hopelessness in everyone's eyes. Far to the south, in Busan, a young engineer named Tae-hyun was trapped in a collapsed research facility. The building had been hit by one of the alien pods. Most of his co-workers were dead. He was alone in a basement laboratory, surrounded by broken equipment and debris. He had food and water for maybe a week. After that, he did not know what he would do. Taehyun spent his time trying to stay sane. He organized the surviving equipment. He took inventory of supplies, and he examined a piece of alien technology that had crashed through the ceiling during the attack. It was part of a pod, maybe, or a creature. It was hard to tell. The thing was partly organic and partly mechanical. It still pulsed with faint light. He set up instruments to measure the pulses. He was an engineer, not a biologist, but he knew signals when he saw them. The piece of alien technology was sending and receiving information. The pulses came in patterns. There was a rhythm to them, like a heartbeat or maybe like communication. For 3 days, Taehyun recorded the signals. He ran them through every analysis program he had. Slowly, he began to understand. The signals were coordinated. They synchronized with each other. Every piece of alien technology was connected, forming a network. The aliens did not operate as individuals. They were all part of one big system, like cells in a body or computers in a network. On the 4th day, Taehyun managed to contact other survivors using a backup radio system. He found Dr. Hyunwoo's team in Seoul. He told them what he had discovered. For the first time since the invasion began, someone had learned something useful about the enemy. If the aliens were all connected, then maybe that connection could be broken. If they operated as one mind, then maybe that mind could be confused or attacked. It was not much, but it was hope. And hope was all humanity had left. Above ground, the alien ships continued their work. They were transforming Earth, preparing it for something. More ships were coming. The invasion was just beginning. But deep underground, humans were beginning to understand their enemy, and understanding was the first step toward fighting back. The first week of hell had passed. The survivors did not know it yet, but humanity's response was about to begin. Part 2, Humanity. Adapts 2 weeks after the invasion, Earth's surface belonged to the aliens. The creatures had spread their strange growth across every city they attacked. The purple and black vegetation covered skyscrapers and streets. It made breathing difficult. It poisoned the water. Humanity had retreated underground like insects hiding from the sun. Captain Ji-won walked through the subway tunnels beneath Seoul. These tunnels now connected to other underground spaces, basements, parking garages, old military bunkers. Thousands of people lived down here in the dark. They had electric lights powered by emergency generators, but the lights felt weak against the darkness above them. She carried a radio that kept her connected to other survivor groups. The news was always bad. Another shelter had been found and destroyed. Another group had run out of food. Another tunnel had been filled with alien poison gas. But today the radio brought different news. Dr. Hyunwoo wanted to meet with all military commanders. He said they might have found something important. The meeting took place in what used to be a government emergency bunker. Military officers from different countries joined by video link. Ji-won saw faces from America, China, Russia, India, and dozens of other nations. These people had been enemies before the invasion. Now they worked together because there was no other choice. Dr. Hyunwoo appeared on the screen looking tired but excited. Next to him sat Taehyun, the young engineer from Busan who had discovered the alien network signal. Taehyun looked nervous to be speaking to so many important people, but his voice was steady. "We have been studying the alien technology for 2 weeks," Taehyun said. "We found something important. The aliens are all connected by a kind of quantum signal. They share one mind across all their bodies. When one alien learns something, they all learn it instantly. When one decides to attack, they all attack together. This makes them very strong," an American general interrupted. "We know they are coordinated." "Tell us something useful," Taehyun nodded. "The useful part is this. The connection can be disrupted. We tested it on a captured alien creature. When we sent certain signals into its network, the creature became confused. It could not move correctly. It seemed to be in pain. Dr. Hyunwoo took over. We believe we can create a weapon using this principle. But we need a very specific type of signal. We need something the aliens have never experienced before. We need something that will overload their shared mind." "What kind of signal?" Ji-won asked. "Human brain patterns," Dr. Hyunwoo said quietly. "Human emotions, specifically. The aliens appear to be purely logical beings. They have no emotions. When we introduce human feelings into their network, it creates chaos they cannot process." The room fell silent as everyone understood what this meant. They would need to use human minds as weapons. People would need to connect their brains directly to alien technology and transmit their thoughts and feelings into the enemy network. It sounded dangerous. It probably was dangerous. A woman's voice spoke from one of the video screens. It was Da-Yoon, a medical researcher from Daegu. She had been studying the effects of alien technology on human biology. "I volunteer to be the first test subject," she said. "I have been working with the neural interface equipment. I understand the risks." More volunteers came forward. Soldiers, scientists, ordinary people who had lost everything. They all wanted to fight back. They all wanted to hurt the aliens the way the aliens had hurt humanity. Ji-won looked at her remaining soldiers. Many of them volunteered too. They called it Project Cerberus, named after the three-headed dog that guarded hell in old stories. It seemed appropriate. They were going to drag the aliens down into an emotional hell they could not understand. The first test happened 3 weeks after the invasion. Da-Yoon sat in a chair with wires connected to her head. Next to her was a captured alien creature in a sealed container. The creature was small, about the size of a dog, but it had killed 6 people before being captured. It constantly tried to break free. Tae-hyun activated the connection. Da-Yoon's brain patterns began transmitting into the alien network. She was told to think about her family, who had died in the first attack. She was told to feel her grief, her rage, her pain. She did not need to be told. Those feelings were always there. The alien creature began to scream. Its movements became jerky and uncontrolled. It crashed against the walls of its container. Sensors showed its vital signs going crazy. After 30 seconds, Tae-hyun shut down the connection. The creature collapsed and did not move for hours. They had proven the concept worked. Now they needed to make it into a real weapon. Over the next month, engineers built devices that could transmit human emotions into the alien network on a massive scale. They looked like bombs but worked completely differently. Inside each device was recorded neural patterns from hundreds of volunteers. Each volunteer had focused on their most intense emotions: fear, love, hatred, hope, desperation. Pilot Jae-hee was chosen to deliver the first weapon. She had been a commercial airline pilot before the invasion. Now she flew a modified aircraft that could barely stay in the air. The plane was built from scavenged parts and ran on fuel they had synthesized underground. It was ugly and unreliable, but it could fly. Jae-hee had volunteered immediately when they asked for pilots. The aliens had killed her husband and 2 children on the first day. She had been at work, flying a route to Japan.
Her family had been at home.
When she landed and found out what happened, something inside her broke. Now she flew because it was the only thing she could still do. Fighting was the only thing that made sense. The target was an alien hive ship hovering over the ruins of Seoul. Captain Ji-won led a ground team to create a distraction. They attacked alien positions around the city, drawing attention away from Jae-hee's approach. The fighting was brutal. Ji-won lost 12 more soldiers that day. Jae-hee flew low between the ruined buildings. Alien defense systems tried to track her, but the modified plane was small and fast. She reached the target zone and released the weapon. It was not dropped like a regular bomb. Instead, it needed to be positioned precisely beneath the hive ship to transmit its signal upward. The device activated. Jae-hee felt a strange sensation, like the air itself was screaming. The hive ship above her shuddered. Its lights flickered. Parts of it began to fall off. Smaller alien ships nearby started flying erratically. Some crashed into buildings. Others simply fell from the sky. The aliens on the ground stopped attacking Ji-won's team. They stood still, twitching and making sounds that might have been screams. Some of them began attacking each other. Their perfect coordination had been shattered by a flood of human emotion they could not understand or process. Jae-hee turned her plane around and flew back to base. Behind her, the hive ship was breaking apart. It crashed into the ruins of Seoul with an explosion that lit up the underground shelters. The survivors cheered. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had won a real victory. News of the success spread through all the underground networks. Hope spread with it. Within days, attacks were being planned in every major city. More weapons were built. More volunteers recorded their emotions. More pilots prepared to fly. Dr. Hyun-woo coordinated the global effort. Tae-hyun worked 20 hours a day building more devices. Da-yoon studied the effects on the aliens and found ways to make the weapons stronger. Ji-won trained new soldiers for the ground attacks. Jae-hee taught other pilots how to fly the dangerous missions. The aliens began to retreat from some positions. For the first time, they showed something that might have been fear. They had come to Earth expecting easy prey. They had found something they never anticipated. They had found a species that would rather die fighting than accept defeat. They had found humans. The war was far from over, but the balance had shifted. Humanity was no longer just surviving. Humanity was fighting back. Part 3. The war escalates. 3 months into the war, humanity had reclaimed parts of Seoul, Tokyo, and New York. The alien growth was being burned away with modified flamethrowers. The creatures were being hunted and killed. The hive ships were falling one by one. But the victory celebrations ended when Dr. Hyunwoo intercepted an alien transmission. His team had learned to decode the alien signals. Most were just coordination data for their network. But this message was different. It was a distress call sent deep into space. The message classified Earth as a Class 5 threat world. It warned other aliens to approach with extreme caution. It requested immediate reinforcements. Hyunwoo brought the message to the Emergency Council that now governed what remained of human civilization. Leaders from every surviving nation gathered in a bunker beneath the Swiss mountains. He played the translated message for them. "This means they are calling for help," said one leader. "No," Hyunwoo replied. "This means we are the first species that has ever fought back successfully. We intercepted their database. They have conquered 473 worlds before Earth. Every single one was subjugated within weeks. We are the first to resist. We are the first to hurt them." The room erupted in angry voices. Some people felt proud. Others felt terrified. If reinforcements came, Earth might face an enemy it could not defeat. But one voice cut through the chaos. It was General Jiwon, promoted for her actions in Seoul. "Let them come," she said coldly. "Let them all come. They killed billions of us. They tried to erase our species. We will show them what happens when you attack Earth. We will make them regret every world they ever conquered." The room fell silent. Then people began to nod. Fear turned to anger. Anger turned to determination. Earth would not just defend itself. Earth would make the aliens pay. They needed better weapons. Taehyun's team had been studying captured alien technology for months. They learned to grow their own versions of the alien materials. They discovered how to make the alien biomachinery obey human commands. They began creating hybrid weapons that combined human engineering with alien biology. The first new weapon was called the empathy bomb. It was based on the original neural weapons but much more powerful. Instead of transmitting one person's emotions, it transmitted the recorded death experiences of thousands of humans killed in the invasion. When used against aliens connected to the network, every single one of them experienced all those deaths at once. A medical officer named Minho coordinated the deployment of these weapons. He was a logistics expert who had kept supply lines running underground during the worst days of the invasion. Now he planned strikes with mathematical precision. He knew exactly where to hit the aliens to cause maximum damage. The empathy bombs were used in a coordinated global attack. In 1 hour, 17 alien positions were hit simultaneously. The results were devastating. Entire alien armies collapsed. The creatures did not die immediately, but they stopped functioning. Their shared mind was overloaded with human death and suffering. Many aliens simply shut down. Others went insane, attacking anything near them, including each other. But the aliens were not finished. 2 weeks after Earth's coordinated attack, sensors detected new ships approaching. These were much larger than the first invasion force. When they arrived, they did not attack immediately. Instead, they deployed devices that fell through Earth's atmosphere like meteors. The devices landed in oceans and on empty land. They activated and began changing the air itself. Within hours, the atmosphere in some regions started turning into ammonia clouds. The aliens were terraforming Earth, transforming it to suit their biology. If they succeeded, humans would not be able to breathe anywhere on the planet. Jae-hee was in the pilot ready room when the alert came. She and 40 other pilots were ordered to destroy the terraforming devices. The problem was simple and terrible. The devices were protected by the new alien ships. Any aircraft that got close would be destroyed. This was a suicide mission. Every pilot volunteered anyway. Jae-hee looked at the young men and women around her. Most were barely 20 years old. They had lost their families, their homes, their futures. Now they would give their lives to protect what remained of humanity. She felt proud and heartbroken at the same time. They flew in waves. The first wave was destroyed before reaching the targets. The second wave got closer but was shot down. The third wave, led by Jae-hee, broke through the alien defenses. Her plane was hit twice but kept flying. She could see the terraforming device ahead, a massive structure that pulsed with energy. She armed her weapons, a combination of nuclear warheads and the new bio-dissolving agents humans had created. She flew straight at the device. Alien fire tore through her plane. Warning lights filled her cockpit. She ignored them all and released her weapons at point-blank range. The explosion destroyed the device and everything within a kilometer. Jahi's plane disintegrated in the blast. She did not feel pain. One moment she was there and the next she was not. 37 other pilots died that day in similar attacks, but they destroyed all 17 terraforming devices. Earth's atmosphere was saved, but the damage was done. Large regions now had toxic air. Humans would need to wear respirators or breathing masks in those areas forever. The cost of victory kept growing. General Jiwan stood on what used to be a street in Seoul. She wore a breathing mask because this part of the city was in a contaminated zone. Around her, soldiers prepared for the next phase of the war. They were no longer fighting defensively. They were hunting. Her orders came directly from the Emergency Council. Find every remaining alien on Earth and eliminate them. Show no mercy. Take no prisoners except for study purposes. Make the aliens understand that Earth was not to be touched. The hunting campaign lasted 2 months. Human forces used the aliens' own technology against them. They learned to track the network signals. They created viruses that infected the alien biological systems. They developed sonic weapons that caused the creatures to dissolve from the inside out. The fighting was savage. Humans had learned to be as ruthless as their enemy. When they found an alien nest, they burned it with modified alien bioweapons. When they captured alien commanders, they used them to broadcast false signals that confused other alien forces. When aliens tried to surrender, humans rarely accepted. Da-Yun watched this transformation with concern. She was now the head of the research division. She saw how the war had changed people. They were becoming harder, colder, more willing to do terrible things. She understood why. Everyone had lost someone. Everyone carried rage inside them. But she worried about what humanity would become if the war continued. Tae-hyun shared her concerns but stayed focused on his work. He had developed a new type of ship that could travel faster than light, using modified alien technology. It was not perfect, but it worked. He showed it to the Emergency Council with a simple proposal. "We can take the fight to them," he said. "We can go to their homeworld. We can make sure they never threaten Earth again." The debate lasted for days. Some leaders argued that humanity should focus on rebuilding. Others said that leaving the aliens alive would invite another attack. In the end, the decision was made by a simple vote. Humanity would go on the offensive. They built a fleet of 30 ships. Each ship carried human crews and weapons specifically designed to cause maximum damage to alien biology. Each ship carried recorded messages from every nation on Earth. The message was simple. Earth remembers. Earth does not forgive. Earth will not be conquered. Dae-eun was put in command of the fleet. She was a scientist, not a soldier, but she understood the alien biology better than anyone. She also carried the weight of knowing what this fleet would do when it reached the alien homeworld. Before the fleet departed, General Jiwan visited the flagship. She found Da-eun standing alone in the command center looking at star charts. "Are you ready?" Jiwan asked. "No," Da-eun replied honestly, "but I will do it anyway. For everyone we lost. For everyone who survived. So this never happens again." Jiwan nodded. She understood. They all understood. The war had made them into something new. Something harder. Something that would do whatever was necessary to protect their home. The fleet departed on a cold morning. The ships rose from hidden launch sites around the world. They broke through Earth's atmosphere and accelerated into deep space. Behind them, Earth continued to heal and prepare. Ahead of them lay the alien homeworld and the final chapter of the war. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you brought hell to humanity's doorstep. Part 4. Beyond Earth. The journey to the alien homeworld took 6 weeks. The human fleet traveled through space in ways that should have been impossible. The ships used technology that was part human engineering and part alien biology. They were fast, aggressive, and carried the anger of an entire species. Admiral Da-eun sat in the command center of the flagship. She still found it strange to be called Admiral. 1 year ago, she had been a medical researcher studying diseases. Now she commanded a fleet carrying weapons designed to end an entire civilization. War changed people in ways they never expected. The crew around her came from every corner of Earth. Some were military professionals. Others were scientists, engineers, or simply survivors who wanted revenge. They all wore the new uniforms that combined protective gear with breathing systems. Nobody trusted alien planets to have breathable air anymore. As they approached the alien home system, sensors detected hundreds of ships. The aliens knew they were coming. They had prepared defenses around their world. Dayan studied the data and felt her stomach tighten. This would be the largest space battle in human history, and possibly the last. She opened a communication channel to all ships in the fleet. Her face appeared on every screen. "This is Admiral Daun," she said. "In a few hours we will engage the enemy. They invaded our home. They killed billions of us. They tried to erase humanity from the universe. Today we make them understand the cost of that mistake. Today we show them that Earth remembers." The crews responded with determination. They checked their weapons. They ran system diagnostics. They prepared for battle and possibly for death. But none of them suggested turning back. They had all come too far. On Earth, General Jiwan watched the fleets approach through telescopes and sensors. The light from the alien system took years to reach Earth, but quantum communication devices kept everyone connected in real time. She sat in the command bunker with Dr. Hyunwoo and Tae-hyun. They would coordinate support from Earth during the battle. "They are outnumbered 5-1, Hyunwoo said quietly. "Numbers do not tell the whole story," Jiwan replied. "Our people are fighting for survival. The aliens are fighting to protect their comfort. That makes all the difference." The battle began when the human fleet entered weapons range. The alien ships moved to intercept, their formations perfect and coordinated through their shared mind. They expected the humans to be outmaneuvered and destroyed quickly. Instead, the human ships split into small groups and attacked from multiple directions at once. They did not fly in neat formations. They moved unpredictably, chaotically. Each ship's captain made their own decisions. The aliens, who thought as one mind, could not predict or counter this approach. Da-Yun's flagship led the charge toward the planet's orbital defenses. Alien fire tore through space around them. 2 human ships were destroyed in the first minute, but the remaining ships pressed forward, firing everything they had. The weapons humans brought were horrifying. Neural cascade missiles that transmitted overwhelming emotions into the alien network. Bioplague warheads that infected alien organic systems and made them turn against their own ships. Quantum disruptors that severed the connection between aliens and their shared mind, leaving them helpless and alone. One alien defense station after another fell silent. The orbital platforms that protected the homeworld were destroyed or captured. The human fleet pushed through despite heavy losses. Half the ships were damaged. 8 were destroyed completely, but they reached orbit around the alien homeworld. Da-Yun looked at the planet below. It was beautiful in its own strange way. Purple oceans and black continents, cities that glowed with bioluminescent light, billions of aliens living their lives, probably not even understanding what was happening above them. She thought about Earth. She thought about the cities turned to ruins. She thought about the billions of humans who died screaming as alien weapons dissolved them. She thought about children who would never grow up and parents who would never see their families again. Then she gave the order. Prepare the ultimatum transmission. The message was broadcast on every frequency the aliens used. It was simple and clear. The aliens must surrender completely. They must disconnect from their shared mind and live as individuals. They must submit to human oversight and accept punishment for their crimes. If they refused, humanity would destroy their world. The response came quickly. The aliens rejected the ultimatum. They could not comprehend living as individuals. Their entire civilization was built on the shared mind. Being separated from it was worse than death to them. They would rather die as one than live as many. They chose this, Daun said to her crew. Remember that. We gave them a choice. The devastation began with neural cascade bombs dropped on every major city. The weapons did not destroy buildings or kill quickly. Instead, they forced every alien on the planet to experience individuality for the first time. Trillions of minds that had always been connected suddenly found themselves alone. The psychological shock was immense. Aliens across the planet stopped functioning. Some went insane. Others simply shut down, unable to process the horror of being separate from their kind. Cities fell silent. Ships stopped moving. The entire civilization ground to a halt within hours. But humanity did not stop there. The next wave of attacks used biological weapons specifically designed to target alien physiology. These weapons were based on diseases that infected the alien organic technology and spread through their networks. They caused pain without quick death. They were designed to make the aliens suffer the way humans had suffered. Minho coordinated the attacks from Earth. He had become the architect of this devastation. He chose targets with mathematical precision. He calculated how to cause maximum damage with each strike. He showed no emotion as he gave orders that would kill billions. Taehyun watched the battle data and felt sick. He had built the ships that made this possible. He had developed the weapons that were being used. He had wanted to protect Earth, but now he watched an entire species being destroyed. The line between justice and genocide seemed very thin. "This is wrong," he said quietly to General Ji-won. "Perhaps," Ji-won replied, "but it is necessary. If we let them survive with their power intact, they will rebuild and attack again. If we show mercy, other species will see Earth as weak. This is the price of survival in a hostile galaxy." The orbital bombardment continued for 3 days. Human ships fired weapons that left entire continents barren. They targeted the alien power centers, their breeding facilities, their food production areas. They methodically dismantled the infrastructure of an interstellar civilization. Other alien species watched from a distance. They had monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. They saw everything. The Calth had been one of the most powerful species in known space. They had conquered hundreds of worlds over thousands of years. Now they were being destroyed by a species they had dismissed as primitive prey. Some of these observer species tried to intervene. They sent diplomatic messages to the human fleet. They offered to mediate. They suggested that humanity's response was excessive. Daeun read their messages and replied with cold precision. "Your species watched as the Calth committed genocide across the galaxy. You did nothing to stop them. You have no moral authority to lecture us about excess. Stay out of this, or you will learn firsthand what happens when you threaten Earth." The observer species retreated. They took careful note of humanity's capabilities. They began fortifying their own borders. Some sent secret diplomatic overtures, hoping to establish peaceful relations before humanity decided they were enemies too. By the 5th day, the alien homeworld was no longer a functioning civilization. Cities were ruins. The population had been reduced by 90%. The survivors existed in small groups, their shared mind fragmented into isolated pieces. They were no longer a threat to anyone. Daeun gave the order to cease fire. The fleet remained in orbit, keeping watch. Some crew members felt relief that the killing had stopped. Others felt empty, as if they had lost something important about themselves during the battle. The Admiral recorded a message to be broadcast across the galaxy. It would be humanity's first official communication with the wider universe. She chose her words carefully. "This is Admiral Daeun of Earth. The species known as the Calth invaded our world without provocation. They attempted to exterminate humanity. They failed. What you have witnessed is Earth's response to aggression. Let it be known to all species. Humanity seeks peace, but we will defend ourselves with absolute force. Any species that commits genocide will face the same fate as the Calth. The galaxy must choose: coexist with Earth peacefully, or face us in war. There will be no third option." The message was transmitted using technology from a dozen different alien species. It would reach every corner of known space within days. The galaxy would have to decide how to respond. On Earth, people gathered in the rebuilt sections of cities to watch the message. Some cheered. Others cried. Everyone understood that humanity had crossed a line. They were no longer innocent victims. They had become something powerful and dangerous. The fleet prepared to return home. They had won, but victory felt heavy. Part 5. The Aftermath. The fleet returned to Earth 8 weeks after leaving the alien homeworld. The ships were damaged and scarred. More than half the crews had been killed or wounded. The survivors came home as heroes, but they did not feel like heroes. They felt tired and old, even the young ones. Admiral Daeun stood on the landing platform as her ship touched down. It was built on what used to be a park in Seoul. The city was being rebuilt around her. Buildings made of hybrid human and alien technology rose toward the sky. They were beautiful in a strange way, more organic than the old structures, as if the city itself was alive. General Ji-won met her at the landing platform. The two women embraced briefly. They had both changed during the war. Ji-won's hair had turned gray, though she was only 35. Taeyun had scars on her face from a battle injury. They looked like veterans of a war that had lasted decades, not just 1 year. "Welcome home," Ji-won said. "Thank you," Daeun replied. "How is Earth?" "Healing slowly." Ji-won gestured at the city around them. "We have rebuilt enough for people to live above ground again. The air is breathable in most areas if you wear a filter mask. Food production is stable. The survivors are starting to have children again. Life continues." They walked through the rebuilt streets together. The new buildings incorporated alien biotechnology in ways that made them adapt to their environment. Walls changed color with temperature. Windows grew and shrank to control light. It was technology humanity never could have developed on its own, earned through blood and suffering. The population of Earth had been reduced from 8 billion to fewer than 5 billion. 40% of humanity was gone. Every person alive had lost someone they loved. The grief was universal and permanent, but people were learning to carry it and keep living. Dr. Hyunwoo met them at the research institute. He looked older too. The war had aged everyone who survived it, but his eyes still showed the curiosity that made him a scientist. He led them to a secure facility where the remaining alien prisoners were kept. Only a few million aliens had been spared. They were kept in isolated facilities, separated from each other so they could not reconnect their shared mind. Human scientists studied them, trying to understand their biology and psychology. It was part research and part punishment. The aliens suffered in isolation, experiencing loneliness for the first time in their species' history. "We have learned much from them," Hyunwoo explained. "Their technology is incredibly advanced in some ways, but they never developed anything requiring individual creativity. Everything they built came from their collective mind. They never had art, music, or literature as we understand it. They never had disagreements or different perspectives. In some ways, they were very limited." Daeun looked at one of the prisoners through the glass. The creature sat motionless, its eyes vacant. It was alive but barely functioning. She felt something she did not expect: pity. "What will we do with them?" she asked. "That is for the council to decide," Ji-won replied. "Some want them executed. Others want to keep them as a warning. A few even suggest trying to rehabilitate them, teaching them to live as individuals." The debate continues. The council met in a rebuilt government building. Representatives from every surviving nation attended. The war had forced cooperation on a level never seen before. The old borders and rivalries seemed less important when humanity had faced extinction together. Taehyun presented a report on galactic affairs. Other alien species had been sending messages to Earth. Most were diplomatic overtures, carefully worded to avoid seeming threatening. They wanted to establish peaceful relations. They wanted to trade technology and knowledge. Most importantly, they wanted to make sure Earth had no reason to see them as enemies. "The galaxy is afraid of us," Taehyun said. "We defeated a species that had conquered hundreds of worlds. We showed a level of aggression and determination that shocked everyone. Some species are calling us the awakened death world. They believe Earth produces warriors that other planets cannot match." One council member spoke up. "Is that what we want to be? The monsters that everyone fears?" Minho stood to respond. He had become a council member after the war, representing the military interests. "We do not need to be monsters, but we cannot be victims again either. The galaxy must understand that Earth will defend itself. Fear will keep us safe more effectively than friendship." The debate continued for hours. Eventually, they reached a consensus. Earth would engage with the galactic community, but on its own terms. Humanity would trade and form alliances, but any species that showed aggression would be treated as the Kalth were treated. The message was clear: peace through strength. Pilot Jae-hee's name was spoken during the council meeting. She had become a symbol of humanity's sacrifice. Monuments were being built to honor her and the other pilots who had died destroying the terraforming devices. But not everyone wanted to be remembered as heroes. In a small apartment in rebuilt Busan, a woman named Soo-jin watched the council proceedings on her screen. She had survived the invasion by hiding in a basement for 3 months. She had lost her entire family. Now she worked helping other survivors cope with trauma and grief. She thought about what the council was deciding. She understood the need for strength and deterrence, but she worried about what humanity had become. The war had made them harder, more willing to use violence, more suspicious of others. She hoped they could regain some of the gentleness and creativity that had defined human civilization before the invasion. Dr. Hyun-woo shared her concerns. Late at night, he worked alone in his observatory, the same place where he had first detected the alien ships. He looked at the stars and thought about the future. Earth now had faster-than-light travel. Humans were beginning to explore nearby star systems. They were establishing colonies and outposts. But Hyun-woo wondered what kind of civilization they would build. Would they become explorers and diplomats, or would they become conquerors, spreading across the galaxy with the same aggression they had shown in the war? The choice had not been made yet. His daughter visited him that evening. She was 2 years old, born after the war ended. She knew nothing about the invasion except what would be taught in history classes. To her, the strange hybrid buildings and filtered air masks were normal. This was the only world she had ever known. Hyun-woo held her and looked out at the stars. He wanted her to grow up in a universe where Earth was respected but not feared, where humans could explore and learn without always being ready for war. He hoped his generation's suffering would purchase safety for hers. General Ji-won retired from active military service 6 months after the fleet returned. She had done her duty and more. Now she wanted to help rebuild rather than prepare for the next fight. She took a position overseeing the reconstruction of Seoul, turning her organizational skills toward creation instead of destruction. She often visited the memorial that had been built for the war dead. 3 billion names were inscribed on walls that stretched for kilometers. It was impossible to read them all. It was meant to be impossible, to make people understand the scope of the loss. She found her brother's name there and her parents, and dozens of friends and comrades. "We won," she said quietly to the memorial. "But the cost was everything we were. I hope it was worth it." Admiral Dae-yoon took a different path. She left Earth entirely, volunteering to command the first deep space exploration mission. She wanted to see what else was out there. She wanted to know if the galaxy held wonders as well as threats. She took a crew of scientists and diplomats, not soldiers. Before leaving, she met with Tae-hyun one last time. He had chosen to stay on Earth, working to improve the hybrid technology that kept the planet functioning. They sat in a cafe that served coffee made from plants grown in biotech farms. "Do you regret what we did?" Tae-hyun asked. Dae-eun thought carefully before answering. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret every life lost, human and alien, but I do not regret defending Earth. If faced with the same choice, I would do it again. Does that make me a monster?" "No," Tae-hyun said. "It makes you human. We are not perfect. We make terrible choices when cornered. But we also survive when survival seems impossible. That is what the galaxy needs to understand about us." Dae-yoon's ship left Earth on a clear morning. The sky was blue again, though not quite the same shade it had been before the invasion. Nothing would ever be exactly the same, but it was still beautiful. Life continued. On the memorial wall in Seoul, someone had added unofficial writing beneath the official inscriptions. It said simply, "We remember. We survive. We endure." And across the galaxy, other species watched Earth with a mixture of respect, fear, and curiosity. Some prepared for potential conflict, others prepared for potential friendship. All of them understood one thing clearly. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage and the universe would never be the same. Dr. Hyun-woo stood in his observatory, his daughter asleep on his shoulder. He watched a human ship accelerate past Mars, heading for the stars. More would follow. Humans would spread across the galaxy, carrying their strengths and flaws with them. He thought about the title someone had given to their species, the Awakened Death World. It was dramatic, but not entirely inaccurate. Earth had been sleeping, content in its isolation.